Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Michelle Benitez, the column editor for Hola Escritores, a monthly column that highlights Latina authors in literature. And welcome to our Charla, where we do a live reading and Q&A session with each month's featured author. And joining us this month, we have Malén Denis, author of the potent novel Lithium. So we have recently reviewed Malén's novel for our June column, which you can find on our Hola Escritores website or by scanning the QR code shown earlier in our waiting room. This novel is a feverish search for life's meaning when the lines of happiness and distress are constantly blurring into one. Compelling in its relatability and poetic musings, Lithium cheers for those who cling to the hope of finding a brighter tomorrow. We're honored to have Malén perform and speak here tonight. Everyone, please welcome Malén. So, Malén, thank you again for being here. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Malén. I'm Argentinian. I was born in Buenos Aires. And I lived in New York for the past 8 years, I'd say. I'm currently living between New York and Barcelona. I don't know what to tell about myself. I've studied philosophy. My mother is a psychoanalyst, and I think that somehow is relevant for my writing. I usually mention it. Um, and I don't know. I guess something important about myself is that I never planned on being a writer. I consider myself an artist. I just released my first album as a musician. I also do photography, and yeah, writing is my main medium, I guess, but I do a lot of other things. I guess that's pretty much it. I don't know. It's interesting because it's the first time that I get like interviewed in English, I think. So I guess when you do this for a while, and I've published my first book when I was 20, now I'm 37. Um, in my mind, I already have like this thing that plays and in Spanish, and like I know what I'm gonna say. So right now I realize I had never introduced myself in English, and I don't have anything preset, so that should be pretty cool because I love when things are not controlled. That is actually what I love about writing, not controlling things too much, and so we'll see what happens with me not knowing what I'm gonna say in advance so much. But yeah, that's a bit about myself, I guess.
Great. Thank you so much. And it's nice to have like those unexpected moments that throw you for a loop and see what you do.
Totally.
But hopefully it'll be all good surprises with us. So to get started, we always begin with the live reading. Is there? Yes, whenever you're ready, if you'd like to get started reading from Lithium.
Yeah, excellent. So another thing, and I'm sorry I'm doing like this little intro, but I've never read my book out loud in English also. So that is um when I was choosing what I was gonna read, I realized something interesting about my book is that although I recognize this book to a T because it's mine, this was translated by John Wronoski and Laura Hatry, and it's quite interesting to see it has become a different book, and the music of the book is different. So I don't know by heart how it's gonna sound, and that makes it also a very interesting exercise in which it is my book and it's not at the same time.
Right.
So I've chosen this. Lithium is divided in small chapters. And I've chosen Yohaku no Bi, which is one of my favorite pieces of the book. I'm very sorry, but I have a strong accent, so bear with me because I've never read this out loud to anybody. But yeah, Yohaku no Bi. There's an interior design magazine on the kitchen table. I flip through it as I think what I'm going to do with the rest of the day. I like magazines, but since I try to think logically and not with my heart, I reflexively dismiss them as worthless. Though I do love the irresistible way they combine information of different densities, the photographs one can also absorb without really paying attention. It relaxes me. As a girl, I dreamed of being an architect because architects I knew lived in beautiful houses like the ones in magazines. What I wanted most of all was a house with lots of different kinds of rooms, with secret hiding places and plenty of glass. It's why I started peeling off the wallpaper in my bedroom when my mother wasn't watching. I wanted to have those smooth white walls. One of the main aesthetic ideals informing the design of Japanese gardens is called yohaku nobi, which means the beauty of the void. According to this principle, the void defines the useful part of things. A glass is not the crystal, but the emptiness that it surrounds. Containers in this house that are visible at casual glance. Vases, too. Yogurt jars with snap-on lids, plenty. Jam jars with screw-on lids, item. Tupperware, various sizes. Water glasses, wine glasses, bottles, ashtrays, guitar case. Now, let's see if I can express this clearly. Things are missing in a way that isn't obvious at first. Some books removed almost at random, leaving gaps in the shelves of the studio library. In the bathroom, there's not a single personal hygiene product, as if it had been emptied before a move. The things that are missing in very particular ways. There's a certain inconsistency to their absences. The one that disturbs me the most is the old mirror in the hallway, which had always been there from the time your grandparents were still alive. Only a ghostly reminder on the old pink wallpaper that you never wanted to change. Without the mirror, this isn't the house I knew so well. Something truly vital is missing. There are two kittens and they're only a few days old, 15 to be precise. They don't need to be fed yet, and it's best not even to get too close to them since Materia is being so protective. They made them a little bed out of towels and other soft odds and ends to keep them warm. I'm not so good at caring, not so bad either. I just don't stand out one way or the other. There are people who have a special talent for it, though, and they've always inspired my admiration. People with a kind of radar that detects the risk in a situation and consequences not yet visible to others, a sixth sense for possibility. For example, the mother of my grammar school classmate Valeria always had the right size Tupperware and the perfect portions of everything, a band-aid, an extra change of clothes, a sweatshirt, an awareness of other people's allergies, a gift for navigating a heterogeneous group with the warm-hearted English efficiency of a Mary Poppins. Once we were asked to bring some eggshells to school to make an organic sculpture in our class. So she pierced the shells of two raw eggs with a pin and patiently drained out the yolk and albumin. Valeria arrived with two perfectly hollow white eggs that I envied so much I had to hold back my tears as I squeezed the transparent bag of slippery orange and white fragments, hardly even washed because my mother said they were obviously intended to make a mess. They'd ask for trash, and how could you do any better than this?
Thank you so much.
Mm.
You did a great job. And I know you said earlier that you were sorry about your accent. You never have to apologize for that. I feel very strongly when people like worry about their accents. Everybody has accents. You don't ever have to apologize. But
I
thank you.
know.
It
But it just I feel like insecure in a way. You're
Mhm.
like expressing yourself in another language. And although I've lived in the US a long time and nobody ever complained about my accent, I have to say.
Mhm.
Um which is very nice. You're speaking in your second language, and people can be super patient about that. I feel one feels insecure anyways. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Of course, I feel insecure when I speak in Spanish too with my accent, but it's just an inherent thing we're all doing. But thank you so much for reading and for choosing that section of the story. And with that, we're going to move on to our Q&A section. So our first question is, of course, how did Lithium come about? What made you want to write the story?
That is always a good question because it makes you think of something that like probably I thought about a lot of times. First of all, Lithium is a book that was published first in Argentina by Concreto in 2020. But it was written way before that. So we're talking about a novel that I wrote probably 10 years ago. I think the first version of Lithium, I finished it in 2015. So that makes that's 11 years ago. I'm 37 now, so I was like 26, 25-ish. My worries were very different and my approach to literature was very different. But there's something that remains constant in my work, and it's I start working around questions. It's not something that I decide, oh, I'm gonna write a novel about this or I'm gonna write a text about this. It's more a what if situation that happens inside of my mind. So I guess there's a few worries that I had back then, or a few deep bigger questions, and one it's about identity. I think it's a book on identity that remains one of my main worries, like how can you define a person? Where does a person end and another one starts? Like it's like what if like you're defined by another person? How can you see yourself? So that those were like kind of like the worries that I had back then. And then there's something kind of like anecdotic. um, there were like in the news, I had seen like this there was like a very famous Argentinian guy that had a psychotic breakdown supposedly, and I say supposedly because there were a lot of questions around this, and he had hit his girlfriend. Um, and that was like the first like, what if what if didn't happen like that? And that what if just led me to like start imagining a possibility in which he was not actually having a psychotic breakdown and he was pretending to have one because he was trying to hide um, just violence against women. Of course, this is 2015 when I'm starting to write this, and the feminist movement and a lot of politics of identities were not as clearly cut in Argentinian media. Like it's like 3 years before we had legal abortion in Argentina, 3 years before a lot of things started like actually shifting. So those questions, I guess, were not so direct to me, and I couldn't like like make them more explicit because they weren't as explicit for myself either. I guess like it was a what if that started creating this elements inside of my mind, this other story, this possibility, and another what if, or like how it works is another question that always comes up when I'm writing. How would a person recover from a type of violence that might be not so clear, also so understandable, like in a scenario in which you cannot say, oh, this person did something wrong. Like what if it's hazy, what if it's blurry, what if you don't know what to do? So I started imagining the situation, and it was some time before I started like creating this plot inside of my mind. It's like the novel has a clear plot and there's a story, but the decisions of making it more poetic or abstract is also political. But I started creating this story, and then by chance somebody I was doing an MFA in creative writing, and I was working in poetry, not even in narrative, in fiction. I was working in poetry with an amazing teacher. She's passed now, but I love her so much. Tamara Kamensain, which is an amazing Argentinian writer. And she made me do this exercise in which I had to write some sort of fictional um, journal. She was like, while you guys are working with me, it was a poetry class again. She made us do this journal, and I was taking care of a couple of cats. That's the only element of the book that it's absolutely real. The cats, the two kittens, are real, or not these ones, but the ones that I was taking care of. So the mix between that prompt, let's say, that exercise, that writing exercise, that was just like observing your daily life in search for like moments that were like liminal and things that would surprise you and stuff like that. I created this like journal of taking care of these cats, and I was like in a parallel track working on this idea, this like novel that started appearing in my mind. And one day, I don't remember what happened exactly. I wish I did. But I saw the cats doing something. Like in this exercise, I saw the cats doing something that made me have this other question. And questions are so important for me as a philosopher and as a writer. They're like the same source for me. I saw the cats doing something, and I was like, is taking care of something or someone natural? Can we talk about the instinct of taking care of another being? Um, and out of a sudden, I was like, oh, I got this. Like this thing, these two things that I thought were separate have become a single thing. I I knew that my novel was about the possibility or the impossibility of taking care of oneself and taking care of somebody else, or how hazy and blurry that can get when intimate relationships are not naturally taking care of one another, when like it's impossible um, to do it, to like find a way of taking care of the other person without dying in the process. So my exercise that I thought at that point was like nothing, just something that I'm doing for graduating this. It was for passing this class at an MFA. I did not like being an MFA student. It's a nightmare for me. Um, uh, so something that was an exercise that I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, became a very important part of something bigger that I was working on, and that didn't have shape. So one can say that, like, by chance, I found the structure of the book, and that's it. Then a lot of work, a lot of yeah, a lot of finding the other characters. I had him, I had her, I had the cats, but then I needed like I don't know if the story itself needs it, but I needed a deeper universe and other things happening. And at one point, everybody, like, I would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, and her mom, and like, and then like everybody started appearing. It was like, I always say that it's kind of, writing a novel is kind of like being inside of like Alice in Wonderland's, like the mad like that moment where like all the characters are having like tea, and like, and then there's a rat, and then there's like, and things are happening. I feel like that, and all the characters are you.
Mhm.
Like all of them live inside of you, and they're all complex, and out of a sudden everybody else started appearing. I sometimes feel sad that people don't notice as much that there's other characters in the novel, but like they're there. And so that was it. That was like how it started.
It's interesting how like it's been over a decade. It's not just like the point of when the story was published in Argentina, it's even before that. So it's been with you like in different stages of your life.
Yeah, it's my best friend at this point. This book.
And in the start of the book, there's a section that you quote the definition of lithium from the Wikipedia article, but it's never actually, the word isn't really mentioned in the story itself. So when did you decide to make lithium the title of the story, and what does it mean to you?
I love that you noticed that. Um, it was um, it was of course risky as a choice, and it was a choice. Um, this was also one of those things that when you're writing a book, something start appearing in a way, and maybe you're like it's um, 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 like a moment in which you're paying attention to things that might work for it. I don't know, your mind is just like attracted and like you start hearing people saying things that are like, "Oh my God, this is so good. Oh my God." And I was in Buenos Aires and something had happened to someone like close from my group of friends. There was a psychotic breakdown. I talk about these things very lightly because there has been psychosis in my family. My mother is a psychoanalyst. She works with patients that have like all kinds of stories also. So to me, it's part of also my natural like environment, let's say. But yeah, a friend of mine from high school had had a psychotic breakdown, and a friend of mine called me one day. I was on my way to like an opening, something like very, I don't know, another world. I was not writing at the moment. I was like in my normal life, and she called me out of the bloom. It started being that moment in life when people were not calling any longer on the phone. So you would like get a call as now, right? We get a call in the phone, and it's like, oh, something must have happened. I didn't get a text, right? So I was like, oh, what happened? And my friend told me this. She was like, he's in the hospital. My friend is also a psychoanalyst, and she's like, I wonder what happened. It seems that he has bipolar disorder. It seems, I don't know. He's been on lithium, but it seems that he wasn't taking the medication. And I am a poet. And so the weight of words sometimes comes from how they sound
Mhm.
and not so much what they mean. I heard something in the way litio in Spanish. Litio also sounds like almost metallic, like the sound of the word. It's like it's pointy, it's soft and pointy at the same time. And there was something like that I found like I stopped, and that what makes writers such strange people, and we're not like people are afraid of being our friends because I stopped hearing reality, and I stopped like caring about this person. I am trying to be as honest as possible, but out of a sudden I could only hear the word litio. I was like, even though I was familiarized with bipolar disorder and medications. And so I don't know why, up until that point, I had never heard in the word such a magnetic element. And I was like, what is that? Like, it sounds like for being a medication, it sounds that it's from another world. It's like a mineral. Like, why? Like, just the fact that this person was taking lithium, I was like, it's wow, it sounds so. And I was already writing. So my characters had already like a lot of definition in their uncertainty also because they're pretty unstable. So I went immediately. I was on the subway, so I took my phone and I went to Google and I wrote down lithium, and I got the first thing that I got was a Wikipedia definition, and I entered, and I felt, wow, this is when a dictionary and encyclopedia can be so poetic as well, because the definition of lithium says that exactly what I at that point, maybe now it's different, but that it comes from Greek. I studied ancient philosophy, so I already had like some sort of attraction to the word. Lithium means little stone. That's like the first thing, and it's a silvery white alkali metal that it's soft, ductile, and very light. That does not occur in a free state in nature. That's the first thing that caught my eye. Also, like not only that it's a small stone, and out of a sudden I was like, this is like, it just doesn't sound as something that a person would take, right?
Mhm.
It sounds like it's from a different universe. It does not occur in a free state in nature, but only in compounds. And I was like, free state? It doesn't occur in a free state. So like the idea of freedom also was around the book of like not being able to set oneself free from trauma, from other people's inability to disconnect from you. Like there was like all these characters were enmeshed in a way that they were not in a free state in their nature. They all depend on each other. And the other thing that made me like, oh my God, this is perfect, is of course it's long been employed in the treatment of bipolar disorder, and I was already working in my characters, maybe not having a defined diagnosis, but there was something there already. And the other thing that I loved is that when placed in proximity to flame, it turns crimson, but in a more violent combustion reaction, it flares a brilliant white. And I was like, the color changes and different temperatures. Talking of a different thing and an aspect of my characters and the story that I was making. There's another thing that made it perfect. Oh, it's funny, but now it's saying that my internet connection it's unstable, talking about things being unstable.
I did see
It's
you break out for a second, but I still heard you.
it seems it's working now, and it's funny. There's a few things that made it perfect also. Not only that this element was perfect for everything that I was like trying to, it's not even trying to define. I was trying to make things stable for my novel. And one of the things that kept happening while I was writing is that things weren't like it's as if I was chasing something that was moving all the time. And I didn't know why it was happening, but I think sometimes the subject of a book you're working on with, it's just like that. It's the nature of the thing that you're trying to work with. Um, the other thing is I had published poetry books up until then. And my second book is called Looking Up Drugs on Wikipedia. And out of a sudden, years later, I'm looking for a definition of a drug on Wikipedia. And I was like, this is, I don't know, like, this is like God sent. This is like just perfect for my work. It's just like, I'm not gonna touch anything. If I end up publishing this book, it's gonna start with this quote. And the other thing, of course, is that, well, I don't know if of course, but to me, there's also a connection with Nirvana. Uh, there's a song called Lithium, I think. But I felt like I had worked also with a lot of like my influences in music were very present in my work as a poet. So it was also full circle in the sense that now out of a sudden you would read the title of a book and it will remind you to Nirvana, which is a band that I really like. And Kurt Cobain in a way makes me think of the male character in this novel. So I don't know, I was like, this happened is one of those things that you don't control in writing. Sometimes things appear in reality in the moment they need to appear. it would have been very different if some like if the call had had another content at that point. Maybe the title would be a different one, or maybe I had gotten the same one by research because I was doing research on my characters. But that was just like magical, I feel, and it became undeniably the only title that I had for this book.
It definitely feels magical with your story, like the way you zone in. It always feels like a Disney movie, just like everything blurring out as you hear the word and everything clicks together. Unfortunately, I think we really only have time for one more question, but it's something you mentioned a little earlier, how your novel was originally published in 2020 in Spanish and then again this year in English. What expectations do you have for its reception in English-speaking audiences? Are they any different from its original Spanish release?
Well, I have none. I don't have expectations in general. I try not to because it's very disappointing what happens afterwards. It's always different. I guess I'm shocked and grateful that it's published in another language. When I wrote this, I thought it was a novel that could only survive in the context of Argentina. That if I were to publish it, only my poetry readers were gonna read it. And I was already happy with that. I was already good with it, like my readers reading another way of my writing. It's a book that I did for myself, for like trying something. So it's crazy that it's been published not only in Argentina, it was published right afterwards in Spain through Caballo de Troya, which is a publishing house that it's from Penguin Random House in Spain. And it's now published in Mexico as well. Um, so being published in the US was something that I remember thinking. I was much younger and thinking like, what if one day this gets translated? I was like, it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. It's like it's too niche. So I guess like any like every time that like I get like a review or someone tells me they liked it and they give me their impressions, I'm like always grateful and happy, because I also thought it was going to be a hard book to sell in the US, um, just because the story, the plot is not so clear. And I feel, especially in contemporary times, we need things that all of us, not only in the US, but we need things that like have a certain like logical, like this is a story, this is a story about a girl and this happens, and it's not that type of book. It's the book that I wanted to write, and I would write it again the same way it is. But yeah, I guess I was scared at first, and now I'm grateful that anybody would read it and feel stuff. So I don't know, everything is welcome, honestly. So I don't have much expectations. No.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to get a translation of it. I want to read it in the original Spanish to see like the differences and see more of that poetic language because it's so like vivid in English alone just to see it in the original. I want to see the comparisons. I'll do that on my own time. But I'm grateful that we were able to have you tonight, Malén, or morning for you. This is 1 a.m. for you. Thank you so much for waking up for this. It was great to have you here tonight, and thank you for everybody who joined us tonight. As a reminder, our review of Malén's story, Lithium, is available on our website, and you can sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with all of our upcoming stories. For our next month's column, we are going to be doing a review on Reservoir Bitches by Dalia de la Cerda. Be on the lookout for that. If you're interested in becoming a volunteer writer or submitting a book for us to review, visit our website to see our guidelines and check out our social media to see when we repost this live reading. Thank you so much and have a good night. Thank you again, Malén.
Thank you.